part 2 of the zebra quilt, and I've decided to put a little border on it. I've decided to do just a little band of black around the quilt. So I'm just making some 2-inch strips here. So as you can see, it's not very wide, but I'm just going to sew that on now. So I didn't have enough for the sides, I didn't have long enough strips, so I have joined them together using a diagonal seam, and yes, I used hot pink thread instead of black. So I'm going to sew these on the sides now. Get the other side on there, and I will go ahead and iron it up and see how it looks against the backing. And the reason I have such a narrow border is that on the backing, that is this material here, I wanted to bring it up over and use that as the binding instead of putting a binding on it. So it didn't allow for much. In fact, this might even be too wide. I'll have to see. Almost done with the border, just one more side here, and then I'll go iron it. I was able to find a piece of batting in my supplies that's just the right size, just a little bit bigger than what I need. So I'm pretty happy about that. And tape it down, this with masking tape. So once we get that smoothed all out, then we can put the top on. I think this is the smallest baby quilt I've ever pinned here. So I've been doing diagonal lines, and I've stitched through the squares diagonally, and I've decided to go in between those. So I'm just marking it with my friction pen or air and water soluble ink pen. But I need a new one. I have to keep putting it underwater to get it to work, but it's working just fine. So I'm just marking this in between the lines, or in between the stitching that I already did, and then I will go ahead and stitch that on the machine. So I have already marked and stitched some of this, and I'm just marking 2 inches, or in the middle of the stitching, 2 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and sew this up on the machine. very careful that the backing is tucked underneath. Then I am just trimming off the batting. It's my straight edge. Okay, I think I'm going to wait until tomorrow to measure this and trim this. But then I'm just going to fold this over. I'm going to trim it, make it all even. But then I am just going to fold this over like that and then stitch it down and have that be the binding. And then it'll be done. But it's late, so I am going to wait till tomorrow when I'm thinking a little more clear before I start trimming and cutting and hacking away. But that'll look nice. I like it. And this is different than what the instructions said. The instructions were to place the quilt top face down on the backing right side up, and the quilt top face down, making sure both are flat and smooth. Pin the two pieces together and stitch all sides with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving an approximate 6 inches opening on one side for turning. Trim the corners to lay flat. Turn the quilt right side out and hand stitch the 6 inch opening closed. Press using a pressing cloth. Optional is to stitch in the ditch between blocks. And so that is without the batting. I went ahead and did the batting and stitched diagonally across the quilt. And then I will close it with a binding, but by bringing the back to the front instead of stitching on a binding. So all we have left is just to do that step, and it's done. It's worked up really fast, and I think it's because it's so small. Okay, so I have decided to trim this edge up. At 3/4 of an inch. So I'm taking my time as to get it right. And that's what I did, is I found the thinnest part that I had, or the most narrow part that I had, and that's how I determined how big, how wide I would cut it. And I'm having a problem with glare here. What time of morning it is. Okay, so I'm just folding this over and pinning it. And I just noticed when I went into the I went by the sewing machine, I only have just a small amount of thread left that I've been using that matches the back. So I don't know. I think I might have enough left to do it, or maybe I'll just top stitch it in black. I don't know. It's a color that I'll use again, so maybe I'll just go buy some. Maybe I'll see how far I can get with it. Okay, so when I get to the corners, I fold it. Like that. I fold it into a triangle. Usually, I'll back up. Usually I go down a little ways first so that it will be even and not bunch up. And flannel's kind of tricky because it's kind of stretchy. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm just going to keep on going as long as I have pins. When I run out of pins, then I'll go sew and then come back and finish it.